We have two extraordinary groups of young people who are going to illuminate the power of two distinct participatory oral history projects today. The first project that you'll be hearing from is titled Voices from the Heart of Gotham, We Live It, We Tell It. And it's being organized by 6 student researchers from Guttman Community College. Sade Barrett graduated from Guttman this year and will be transferring to Hunter College as a sociology major to pursue her passion for writing. Sadaf Majid is an immigrant from Pakistan living in Queens, New York, and majoring in psychology at Hunter. Bashir Jawara is a sophomore and the student body president at Guttman, looking to transfer to Georgetown next year to study political science. Basera Saidmayan is a junior from Benin, living in the Bronx and seeking to enter the medical profession after finishing his undergraduate degree at SUNY New Paltz. Luz Hidalgo is a junior from the Dominican Republic, studying social work and psychology at Lehman College. And Samantha Hernandez is a junior at York College from Queens, studying biology with plans to become a medical professional as well. These undergraduates have organized Voices from the Heart of Gotham, the undergraduate scholars oral history collection at Guttman Community College, and are co-authoring a monograph on the collection of testimonies gathered for that archive, which they will introduce you to today.
Thank you. Okay. Voices from the Heart of Gotham. The undergraduate oral history collection at Guttman Community College has uncovered the New York experience through the eyes of immigrants and working class communities of color. Narratives are collected by trusted loved ones, which provoke stories and memories that could only be evoked due to the intimacy between interviewers and interviewees. We, the 8 student researchers before you today, embody the diversity of our city and our college. Our project dives into the Black, Indigenous, people of color, and immigrant communities that Guttman students come from, that we come from, to ask, who are these people so influential to the character of our city? What obstacles have they faced, sacrifices have they made, and dreams have they pursued? How have the dual traumas of pandemics and injustice transformed their identities? This project is designed, executed, and curated by us, the students and alumni of Guttman Community College, seeking to contest reductive narratives from our communities, which too often use numbers and anecdotes to cultivate racist and nativist fears in ways that divide people by class, gender, religion, ethnicity, and place of origin.
Our presentation will focus on over 100 testimonies, which centered on themes of protest, pandemic, immigrant experiences, and food insecurity at NYC. We will share the ways Guttman Community College students, through oral history, have unveiled and honored the pain and determination of largely working class immigrant communities and communities of colors in difficult times. In these interviews, we witness a growing awareness that these struggles for liberation are intersectional.
This project is composed of interviews where typically people of color are interviewing other people of color. So we get the opportunity to put together a history through our own lenses that may vary from Western standards of what academic projects are supposed to look like in terms of structure and order to find the ultimate level of authenticity.
Through this project, our word and our voice have a great impact on how the story we tell are heard by the public. The story I tell, it rises deep from my heart, and only I can share it the way it was meant to. This sentiment was echoed by interviewee and fellow student researcher Bashir Juwara when he explained during his interview, the reality is that when you are telling your story, you know better than someone else doing it for you because you are living through the experience. Only a diverse group of youth researchers can unveil the joy and obstacle we face to get to college to enjoy our past year.
It's extremely important for us to carve out the path for our own experience because so many times in the past, the voices of immigrants and communities of color have been silenced. Being able to share perspectives on how people in society view and treat us made me feel empowered, as for so long I felt alienated as an immigrant.
I feel proud to now be a spokesperson for those people who I identify with and I am part of, which is the immigrant population in the surge of the American dream. It is only fitting that a group of mostly immigrants communicates the message born in this archive. It allows for authenticity that makes this work much more clearly delivered. The immigrant experience can be lonely, as Selena Perez explains. When living in the Bronx, there went a lot of people, a lot of Hispanic people. feel uncomfortable because there weren't people I could resonate with. By amplifying her story and others like hers, I feel like I am contributing to NYC's foreign-born communities, helping other immigrants feel less alone. Through this work, we have become the owners of our own destiny. We are owners of history. We are able to tell our own stories. Nobody's doing it for us.
I feel responsible to educate and motivate people around me to feel that they are part of a safe place to share their histories, even though they do not always realize it. This is because they might fear they are going to be judged, but these stories can actually have a positive impact in the life of others. This makes me think of Sadaf Majid, who was bullied for wearing a hijab. When I was in middle school, I remember my classmate once said to me on Halloween, "Why are you dressing up as a terrorist?" I heard many ignorant comments from ignorant people, and because of those comments, I was actually afraid to wear a scarf or a hijab. Some people are born here and are unaware of the difficulties faced by immigrants. This helps them to be more open-minded. Furthermore, this provides them with an inside look of what is going on in the life of immigrants. Moreover, this matters to future generations because it will prevent difficulties that are currently occurring from repeating in the future.
Because like me, most of the interviewers from Guttman are immigrants or people of color themselves. They design better questions informed by their own experience and could emphasize with the immigrant of BIPOC interviewer in ways that cultivated a sense of unity through shared struggle. From our perspective, the different background we have strengthen the way we speak about our own story and the question we create to ask one another. Or for example, it was an immigrant student who came up with the question, is there anything you would love to have with you here but didn't bring with you when you came because it was not American enough? And as an immigrant, this is the question I would love to answer.
I feel like everyone censors themselves to a certain extent, but if you're being interviewed by someone who looks like you or can relate to your life experience, you're just more likely to open up. And I feel like those things give the project lots of good merit.
If white people were to conduct this oral history project, it will be completely different because they will never understand the hardships that these people endure. And because of this, they could never evoke the histories and memories that emerge in dialogue with someone who has a shared experience. We as students have walked in the shoes of these interviewees.
All these people were able to share their authentic version of the story, what events occurred, and they were able to share firsthand what they felt. I don't think it would be genuine if somebody else from the outside curated these stories because they wouldn't be able to evoke the same feeling.
Our different backgrounds have a huge influence on the ideas that we curate and develop. When this collection of youth researchers gather for a meeting, we are all able to come up with different ideas and gather information differently because of the different things that we've encountered or different things that we've done in life.
This work matters to the Guttman community because Guttman has always been a community college that really wants to advocate for its students. Since Guttman has a population that is majority people of color, and most of our interviews are interviewing a lot of other Black and POC people, that it's just something that hits really close to home, like the atmosphere that we've built at Guttman.
I think this work matters among our community college because we are a Hispanic serving institution and a minority serving institution. If you combine these two, it says a lot about our community. We are a community of color, a community of immigrants. This reminds me of David Barrela Flores, Queens resident, said during an interview for the project. All my minority people, I write for you, you write for me. It means through this work, we are ready, willing, and able to uplift each other. This is our tool to fight prejudice and assumption toward people of color. There are some of the reasons our oral history project matters for us because it is important for us to tell our own stories rather than someone else telling it for us.
New York City is one of the most diverse places on the planet. And I think when people hear all of these interviews about people in New York City, BIPOC and immigrant listeners can particularly relate to it. It could give them the inspiration to talk more about their own experiences. They don't even have to be immigrants or people of color. They could just be regular white folks living in America. For instance, Carmen Castro, an immigrant from Puerto Rico, describes her struggles when she moved there that wouldn't exactly be considered the average American experience. They don't pay me not a penny. I had to be washing clothes all morning from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and there was no food, no nothing. They treat me like a dog. When people hear these stories of people like Carmen Castro, it can open up a whole new world to them and show them the struggles of people to whom they usually don't relate.
It is great that through this project, people outside the immigrant community can now see and hear about what immigrants go through when they are in the process of getting to New York City and when they finally get here. It is important to hear about the way that many immigrants prepare to face life in a whole new country, like Urela Lopez, who spoke on how everything's a challenge and people have to adapt. She knew that we had to be mentally prepared and know that there will be changes. We have to be open to change and work hard. Hearing the human histories of immigrants preparing for and overcoming the obstacles they face only serves to demonstrate how, despite having to start from scratch in the US to attain their objectives, they always keep their heads held high.
We don't have a lot of opportunities in the media to hear about stories from Black and POC people, where they get the opportunity to control the narrative. The narrative isn't genuinely depicted for us. The project is something where we, immigrant and POC students, and the alumni of Guttman Community College, entirely control the process. Because of this, the stories are going to be more indubitable and convincing. These testimonies can help educate a lot of people that haven't had the opportunity to look at those narratives. Like Eugene Leroux, a middle-aged white man residing in Manhattan, mentioned his father's confusion in his involvement. My father couldn't understand my enthusiasm for civil rights, but I was shaped by my experiences. Leroux applying himself to these issues also highlight others' hesitance that may have been influenced by those unnecessary and sometimes harmful bias and rhetoric that can exist.
This work matters to people outside of the project because they get to see what it's like living as an immigrant or being racially antagonized and penalized for being a certain color. Outsiders can absorb this work and identify what may be hidden to the naked eye.
Ignorance is a big reason why people have prejudice about other groups. This work allows us to educate everyone about the struggle and experience of immigrant and community of color. So as an immigrant from Bangladesh, going simply by his first name, Alex, he explained 9/11 had a tremendous effect on me. I felt like everything I accomplished had crashed all of a sudden in that 1 year. I felt like everyone had forgotten how to accept and embrace the difference of community. Once you heard the ways, the dehumanization of immigrant, in this case Muslim immigrant after 9/11, scared them, it become harder not to see immigrants like Alex as deserving of love and kindness, just like everyone else.
Hearing about the experiences and struggles of everyday New Yorkers opened my eyes to the importance of unity within and between communities. We could have totally different backgrounds, but the struggles that we face can be very similar. I definitely think this work shifted my perspective and made me have a new respect for young adults living through the pandemic in such challenging times, and for young people standing up for their beliefs, especially those who were protesting during the pandemic. I was blown away by the commonality of bravery expressed by so many interviewees, putting themselves at risk during the racial uprisings and fighting for a better future, despite the threat of an overly aggressive police response. Guttman alumni Ariadna Vieda explained, I went to 4 protests and they were bad. Even though I was trying to stay as peaceful as I could, it was bad. It was like a mixture of emotions. I caught myself crying so many times. I was just like, this is too much, but it has to be done. This work has given a platform to those standing up for what they believe in is right, even when it is hard to achieve that goal.
There was a specific transcript that stood out to me that I was working on, Monica Thaluska. Watching her progression of learning where to draw her boundaries when it came to her exposure to Black trauma was really insightful. She explained coming to the realization that even though these moments are important, it is still just as important for Black people to take a step back, and that doing so is not a detriment to your character or your level of care. She says, I've come to the realization that's what's best for me right now is to stay off of social media as much as I can. And especially when it's regarding Black trauma, all the trauma that's going on in the world. And I realize that I need to do what's best for me. And that being because everybody will cope with whatever is going on around the world differently. Now, just because you don't see somebody posting on social media when things are going on in the world, that does not mean they're unaware. They're just choosing the way they acknowledge the power, but also keep themselves sane, because that's the most of it. The quote itself was spoken with great care to the Black community. Through access to her transcript, has really amplified that not everything on social media has to be said or posted for people to be active allies or for those who deeply care for the movement. That the movement is important, but so is the mental health of the racial group that had the spotlight suddenly pointed directly at them.
I always thought that being an immigrant was something that I shouldn't really be proud of. It was like a burden because of all the obstacles we had to face. I never realized that there's power in the struggles that we face. I saw myself in Jeraine Nieves Morales' story when she said, I've always had a hard time with my identity because I don't really fit in wherever I go. But we can use these lessons and feelings to help create a better world for future generations. We can create a safe space and for future generations and for us when we're much older.
My perception of self shifted tremendously. Before, I would struggle to advocate for anything really. But through this project, I'm able to advocate for others like Aracelis Oterio, whose decades-old social struggles wrapped up in learning English can provide comfort through shared struggles to newly arriving immigrants. Oterio explains, when you come to this country, they only speak English. If you didn't, they would make fun of you, your accent. That's why there were so many people who were so scared of speaking English, because so many people would make fun of you. These individuals would otherwise never be heard and can never share their daily struggles.
I'm an immigrant of color. So as you can see, I am really passionate about this oral history project because back in the day, people of color really were never given these opportunities to tell their own stories. This work allows us to hear from Saddam Majid, who immigrated at the age of 9. I was scared to go to school here because I had heard rumors about Muslims not being accepted into society, but I was proven wrong. Many people were accepting of me. This oral history is an opportunity for Sada, who joined us on this panel today, to dismantle the assumptions about Muslims that led her to fear going to NYC public schools. Now I have the opportunity to tell my story and help others to tell their stories. I want to make sure that I am using it correctly in the right way, the way that I can empower others to do the same. Collectively, we are talking about important issues, telling our own stories, and trying to make the world a better place.
This work has really highlighted what the past 2 years had done to interpersonal relationships with foundations that I once thought were unshakable. I saw myself when listening to Amaya Marcellus' interview when she said COVID really affected me, because in my family, we don't really talk. So during COVID, I realized who's there for me, who's not. And it's like, that's such a cliche to say, but it's really a thing that you notice in the toughest of times. Who's there for you, who's not, who's real, who's not. Like you get to see slowly but surely, it all comes out at some point. During the protests of 2020, I was really exposed to who really supported me and my right to a peaceful existence as a Black woman. In a time where I expected close individuals in my circle to be on the same page with me, I was hurt. It was the little things, the small critiques of protest or a family member still wanting to protect the NYPD was startling. Reading her transcript, I was really able to relate to just how isolating it can feel when the bedrock of your support system begins to shift in such a way.
I'm taking a writing course this semester, and the project actually had a huge impact on my academic work because the professor would give us different materials to read, and most of the time I feel like some of the material is very biased. It's all written by people who actually never been there or done that, people who don't understand the struggle of things. This project in times of protest and pandemic made me more and more aware of the experiences of everyday New Yorkers, a phenomenon that has been explained by Desiree Colon when she said, I think people are really starting to see how unjust the world is. And instead of sitting back and taking it, we're finally realizing that we do have power and we can make a change, but we have to do it together. And the protests are a way of saying that we are all in this together. Desiree explains the impact of complicating the standard narratives reproduced in institutions of learning that are challenged by this work in our generation.
Currently, I'm studying psychology, but I would like to go beyond just studying general psychology. I would also like to study the effects of culture and how it affects different people from different backgrounds' ability to adapt into their new surroundings. Although some of my classes have touched upon the difference in psychology methods across cultures, none of them have really gone into depth about it. The one time I really saw cultural and mental health being intertwined was when I was in high school in an after school program called South Asian Youth Action. And what I liked about the program was that it incorporated mental health and the culture of South Asia together to help students of South Asian descent better adapt to their high school life and college life. This oral history project made me realize that psychology is a really broad field and that a lot of immigrants and people of color have different experiences from white people because our mental health can be really affected because of our different experiences and struggles. So, I want to help kids specifically adapt into these new places using what I know about psychology.
Other classes that I have been in have always pushed me towards being ethical, being equitable, and making sure that the projects that you're doing, the people who are part of the projects, have a voice. That if you're providing a service, you're providing a service that they said they needed, not what you think they need. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's changed. I would just say it has contributed to learning about how to go about things properly and just gain more experience when it comes to doing work or research that centers people of color.
I used to have this assumption that school and learning is only in the classroom. Doing research in the field, doing interviews outside of the classroom, this actually built confidence. I had the confidence to ask questions, and now I have become so confident to tell my own stories. For example, in my urban studies class fieldwork assignment, I decided to conduct observation in the building I am currently living in with the hope of exposing in different management of the building. To connect it to the importance of oral history work we are doing here, I asked tenants if they are willing to share their thoughts about the management of the building and their living conditions. My work inspired these particular tenants to be self-advocates. Therefore, this oral history work added additional dimension to my ability to advocate and now allow others to be able to advocate for themselves. It also boosts my confidence to be authentic me and allow others to be their authentic selves. In the classroom, we see so many students who are shy, but when they have opportunities like through oral history they are passionate about, I think they will be able to shine.